The early morning air was dense and cold, a sticky soup that seeped under the collar of my trench coat. It was 2:15 a.m. The city had sunk into a cavernous silence, broken only by distant traffic and the blue light of my screen. I was drained after an exhausting day of overtime and accounting. My mind was a dry sponge. I requested the taxi. The app confirmed quickly. Ethan, a common name. Car, a gray sedan, generic. The GPS located him 3 minutes away. I stood under the nearest street lamp, struggling to see through the mist that had suddenly risen, thick and metallic. The wait stretched into 10 minutes. Just as I was about to cancel, a silhouette emerged from the fog, the gray sedan. It stopped a few feet away, silent, as if deposited by the mist. The back door unlocked with a soft click. I got in. "Good evening," I said, closing the door with a loud slam. "Good evening," replied a voice I didn't dare categorize. It was flat, almost robotic, as if the sound came from a deep, echo-less place. The first chill started immediately. I looked into the rearview mirror. There were no eyes. No face. The mirror was oriented strangely, showing only the vinyl ceiling or a dark reflection of the night. I leaned forward slightly, hoping to reveal Ethan's face. Nothing. A baseball cap cast a complete shadow over the seat. The only visible thing was the back of his neck, covered by the high collar of a thick jacket. "Can we take 4th Avenue? The app's route usually takes a longer way around," I tried. The driver did not turn his head or nod. He simply put the gear selector into drive. "Route in progress," was his only reply, the same strange, monotonous voice. The car began to move. Silence returned, an active, palpable presence filling the cabin. The journey quickly became a sensory torture. Minute 5, a wave of dizziness hit me. Not normal sickness, but something deeper, as if my internal balance had been knocked off kilter. I felt pressure in my temples, a high-pitched ringing in my ears. The streetlights bled into reddish and green streaks, as if my eyes couldn't focus. Minute 10, the road. This was not the usual way. We were on narrow side streets, flanked by abandoned warehouses. The asphalt was irregular, and every bump was an echo in my churning stomach. I tried to check the app, but my cell phone was gone. A sudden panic. I searched my pockets. Nothing. I bent down, feeling the damp, rough carpet. Nothing. "Excuse me, have you seen my phone?" I asked, my voice thin with anxiety. Ethan did not reply. At that moment, the radio switched on. The sound simply materialized at a low volume. It was a childish sing-song. A sweet voice, terrifying in its innocence, repeating the same phrase over and over, set against an out-of-tune piano. "You're almost there. You're almost there, friend. You're almost there." The repetition was hypnotic, synchronizing with my accelerated heart rate. It was a macabre lullaby that drilled into my nerves. I felt cold sweat trace a path down my spine. "Turn that off," I demanded, my voice trembling. "This isn't the way, Ethan. Where are you taking me? Stop the car." The driver remained unmoved. The only reaction was a slight adjustment of the steering wheel. The exterior mist seemed to thicken, enveloping the car in a gray-white layer that erased the world. It was like traveling inside a cloud. Inside, there was only him, me, and the childish voice, now sounding closer, resonating inside my skull. The voice was not recorded. It felt alive, urgent. "Time is running out. You're almost there." Not much longer. My pulse hammered in my throat. I knew I had to get out, but the dizziness was paralyzing. I felt heavy. My body wasn't responding. My eyes were shutting against my will. The atmosphere inside the car was heavy, unbreathable, smelling of chlorine or wet earth. I fought the drowsiness. I forced myself to look forward. The driver was still that shadow, but I saw a movement. The hand gripping the steering wheel was covered by a dark old leather glove at the wrist. The wrist sticking out of the jacket sleeve was an unnatural, cerulean, almost translucent color. This was not a man. This was not Ethan. I tried to open the door. The child lock was active. I pounded on the driver's seat. "Stop! I'm calling the police!" There was no answer. Only the sharp turn of the steering wheel. The car exited the fog as abruptly as it entered. We were on a cobblestone street bordered by an old brick wall. There was a blind alley. In front of us, the alley ended in a tall concrete wall. There was no way forward. The car stopped. The engine turned off. The childish voice stopped too. There was a total silence. The driver, the shadow, leaned slightly forward. I didn't see eyes or a face, but I felt the cold, immeasurable weight of his attention. "We have arrived," the flat voice said, for the last time. The car door unlocked. I heard the click. And then, the dizziness overcame me. The darkness completely swallowed me. The cold. That was the first thing my brain registered upon reopening. A biting cold, the cold of stone. I opened my eyes. The light was weak, grayish, the prelude to dawn. I was sitting on a park bench in a small neighborhood park, miles from where I had ordered the taxi and miles from home. I checked everything. My watch reads 6:05 a.m. 4 hours had disappeared. My wallet was intact. My cell phone was gone. My mind was spinning. The memory of the ride was blurry, dreamlike. Only the metallic taste in my mouth and the missing phone were evidence. I walked until I found a main avenue. The city was waking up. I found an internet cafe and ordered another taxi home. I arrived at my apartment at 7:30 a.m. After deactivating my cell phone, I rushed to the laptop to check the ride-sharing application. I accessed my account. Trip history. I searched frantically for the 2:15 a.m. trip. It wasn't there. I refreshed the page. The record for the request simply didn't exist. I checked the cancellation log. Not there either. The app had no record of me between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. In the eyes of technology, I never left that corner. I used the support function to search for recent driver names. I typed, Ethan. The screen returned a dry, definitive message. No drivers with that name were found in the active registry within the last 72 hours. The gray car never existed. The app never recorded the trip. And Ethan ... Ethan was a data ghost. I collapsed onto the sofa. The fear was not of what had happened, but of the denial of reality. 4 hours of my life were gone. The phone was the only thing missing, and the only evidence. You're almost there. Almost where? Almost where? The answer, chilling, slipped into my mind. That ride wasn't meant to take me home. It was a detour, a hijacking of my time. The driver was a ferryman. He had taken my cell phone, not to rob me, but to erase the beginning. The digital trace of my request, the last thing connecting me to reality, was gone. I got up and went to the window. The park outside looked harmless, but my mind was stuck in the blind alley and in the flat voice. We have arrived. Arrived where? At the void. At a 4-hour gap that whispered that the world wasn't orderly, but a fragile framework where, at 2:15 a.m., certain gray cars can pick you up for a journey that isn't on any map. The taxi didn't arrive, but I did leave. And the question now wasn't who Ethan was, but who am I after that ride? What part of me stayed in that car? I walked over to my own radio and turned it on. But I kept hearing in the echo of my exhaustion, a sharp, sweet whisper. You're almost there. And I understood that the journey hadn't ended.